funds for something, and the proceeds go for veterans.
And let me say this. We worked very hard to have this banquet at the Trade Center. That money went right back into your community because of the employees of the Trade Center and everything. We spent over $15,000 for that dinner at the Trade Center. And we only made $8,000 to take care of veterans. And we've got dealerships, we got banks, we got businesses that won't even buy an ad for $100 from us. And all of our money, we are a 501c19. The 19 stands for veteran. And we are open book. You can examine our books at any time. So none of that money, I don't get paid anything. The only thing I get is my retirement check. And I run utilizing my own fuel to do what I do. And when a veteran comes to me and say my gas is going to be cut off or my lights are going to be cut off, I send them online to the American Legion. They fill out an application. Once they fill out that application, they bring it to me, and I approve it, and I send it to my headquarters. They approve it. It gets sent to National, which is in Indianapolis, Indiana, and they approve it. I just paid in the last 3 months about 4 people rent, which amounted to over $5,000. So we're working hard to keep that heat off of you all on both sides of the river, that we continue to take care of veterans and their families.
Tremendous.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Go around and make sure council can recognize you as well.
And Commander Davis,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may, now is the time to start writing the companies that you want to participate in the banquet next year,
I am.
so they can get it in their budget.
And I got something for you too.
Well, thank you, Commander, so much. That was a nice surprise and so gracious of you, and we look forward to next year. Thank you so much. All right. Well, that concludes our public agenda, and we'll move in now to the City Manager's agenda. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First on my agenda, I have the Health and Wellness Center contract renewal. This will be the third of the four-year
Got a
contract.
motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? Seeing that there's none, please record your votes electronically. Let's see. I think we may need one more. Yeah, we got it. All right, thank you.
Okay, I've got acquisition of property at 6250 Warm Springs Road, asking for your approval that we acquire this property for the sum of $10 with $5,300 having.
Okay, we got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing that there's none, I'll cue it to vote. Please record your votes electronically. Okay, and it passes.
We got requesting approval to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Georgia Forestry Commission. This is for military generators that they are going to allow us to have at Fire EMS that will.
Okay, we've got a motion and second for approval. This is on the military generators acceptance. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing that there's none, please record your votes electronically. Okay, and it does pass.
I've got it's a grant, $49,444. It's a new additional federal victim witness grant. The match is 20% or $12,361.
We've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? All right, seeing that there's none, please record your votes electronically. And it does pass.
I've got purchases. I've got an annual maintenance support agreement for the OASIS system. It's in the amount of $98,795.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval. Is there a second? There is discussion. Councilor Thomas.
I'm sorry, not on this item.
Oh,
Mayor.
okay. All right, why don't you press your light again? All right, please record your votes electronically on item A, annual maintenance support agreement. I think we need one more. There you go, Mayor Pro Tem. And it passes.
Next, I've got a replacement of IBM system storage in the amount of $132,810. The current storage usage is going to expire in 6 months, and so rather than renewing something that's going to expire, it's more cost efficient and makes more sense to replace the IBM system storage at $132,810.
We've got a motion for approval. Is there a second? All right, is there any further discussion? Seeing that there's none, please record your votes electronically. It passes.
We've got recycling trailers. These are replacement trailers that will be used at recycling drop-off points throughout the city in the amount of $56,000. It's for 6 trailers.
We've got a motion for approval. Is there a second? There's a second. Councilor Huff, Councilor Thomas with discussion.
Yes. Mr. City Manager, how many drop-off points do we have in the city?
Let me verify that with Public Works, and they're here. I'll come back and tell you in just a second.
I'm just curious as to, we have six
Trailers.
trailers.
We have 4. Why don't you-
So why are we buying 6?
Good afternoon.
Good morning. We're buying 6, first of all, because we take an empty one and drop it off, so we usually actually have a spare that we pull around. And then we also utilize them now when we need to at special events, so we can take a trailer out there and park it. And if anything needs repair, of course, that gives us a spare.
Okay. Anything further?
I guess not. It just seems like overkill to me, but
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Your votes it's been queued for electronic vote. Please record your votes electronically. Okay,
Next.
and it does pass. Thank you.
Next, I've got security surveillance equipment for Metra. This is grant money, 80-10-10, and it's an RFP.
We've got a motion. Is there a second? D through J. Okay. We've got a motion and second to approve items D through J. Yes. Okay. Yes, sir.
The exception of H, but I would like the city manager to read out each topic of the letter so that we can.
All right. So let's see. How about a motion to approve D,
E, G, I, J.
I, and J? Is there a second for that? There's a second. So that is item D, security surveillance cameras, Department of Transportation, Metra. E, trailhead buildings for South Lumpkin Road multi-use trail. G, uniform dress shoes and boots for annual contract. What department is that for, office?
That's right, throughout the city.
Throughout the city. Let's see, I, paper and plastic products, annual contract. and emergency medical supplies annual contract. Any discussion related to these items? All right, seeing none, we'll cue them for vote. Please record your vote electronically. And we're missing, it looks like Councilor Davis for your vote. Thank you. All right, and it does, those items do pass. And now we're back to item F, Comer Recreation Center roof replacement. Mr. City Manager?
Yes, this is roof replacement of the portion of the building that was not damaged in the storm. As you know, we spent $800,000 to $1 million on that portion with insurance proceeds.
We've got a motion for approval. Is there a second? Okay, there's a second. We have discussion with Councilor Thomas.
I'd like for the city manager to complete his.
Well,
Okay.
sure. And so we replaced the roof, obviously, on the building that was where the insurance proceeds damaged to replace the building that was damaged, and they paid for the roof replacement on that building. But this is the portion of the building, I think, towards the back where there was no damage and no insurance proceeds involved, and that roof is in need of replacement. And so this $55,000 is to replace that roof. Is what this is. So we're requesting your approval.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
All right, is there any further discussion? Seeing that there's none, we'll cue this item for voting. Please record your votes electronically. Let's see, Councilor Thomas, it hasn't recorded. Okay, and it does pass.
And I believe the next one is H. This is the upgrade to the city's 800 megahertz radio system and maintenance amendment 1. You've already approved the upgrade to the 800 megahertz radio system. You did that some time ago, and that's the $20.3 million over a 10-year period. Donna Newman.
We've got a motion for approval. Is there a second? Okay, we do have discussion.
Okay, if I may, Director of Engineering Donna Newman did an update to you at the last council meeting where we have 3 employees in a radio shop that we've had for many, many years where they work on our radios, they purchase the parts to repair those radios, and it's more cost efficient for us to contract that out to Motorola and have them we wouldn't have the personnel expense, we wouldn't have the expense for parts with this all-inclusive $2.8 million, and it's basically a net is what she explained when they presented it to you. If you remember the font that was too small, and we emailed you the breakdown a couple of days following the council meeting, but those employees, current employees, would go into vacant positions that are there in traffic engineering. We would maintain a part-time person in the radio shop just to kind of do the administrative facilitating with Motorola, making sure that everything is taken care of. And so we would be reducing the number of employees on our payroll to include benefits and so forth. And we would be getting the work done by those who make, produce, and repair radios rather than trying to maintain employees, train employees, and buy parts and replace them in-house ourselves. And so this Amendment 1 is about contracting out the radio maintenance, and we would no longer have those employees.
Okay. Councilor Baker.
And that was most of my question. Thank you. Number 1 is, as it's noted, Amendment 1. I didn't know if that meant we have to expect more or not. That's what worries me.
We don't anticipate any more, but you never know.
It didn't say amendment, it said Amendment 1.
Well, that's it as far as I know. I don't know of another amendment.
I'll hold you
that's
to
pending.
that.
Well, no, don't hold me to it. I said as far as I know, because anything can happen. But I don't foresee any amendments, but I don't like it when you say you're going to hold me to it.
I didn't think that you would. Okay, thank you for your explanation. Also, this really isn't purchasing units, it's just parts and maintenance.
Yes.
Almost $3 million. And explain to where it says part of this goes to the services of a part-time radio manager.
Yeah.
I mean, you're paying them to
No,
hire?
it would be in-house. Is it? Well, why don't you come around, Donna, and explain?
Because this is a payment to them for services, so, and it specifically says for a manager.
Well, I think they're going to have a dedicated person to manage our contract to make sure that all the elements of the contract are met.
And we have to, in essence, hire them a person?
Well, it's part of their cost in order to, where we have 3 people right now, they're going to have added cost on their operation to maintain our system as well, and that's part of the overall contract cost.
And did we recoup that savings by eliminating those positions?
That's the proposal, is we would eliminate 3 positions, and I think the original intention was to do that as part of the normal budget process, because it becomes effective FY16.
I saw that, I saw
Yeah.
that. So that will be addressed at budget?
During the budget process.
Okay.
And also, what they've offered through this program is that person that's dedicated to our account will maintain our inventory. So that's something that we're doing in-house, so that's something that they're taking on. And they're just making sure that we're aware that that includes a dedicated person for our contract.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me. Any other questions on that?
No, there are no further questions, no further comment. In that case, we will cue it for voting. Please record your vote electronically. And it passes.
I believe that was the last one with questions, Mayor.
Yes, that's it. You've completed the purchases.
And so with that, we've got a couple of updates. The first one on Claflin School. We've got Laura McCool, our Community Reinvestment Manager, is going to come.
Councilor Allen?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager, before we get into that, while Donna's still here, I got a call from a concerned businessman who is also a constituent, but beside that, he was upset and very concerned over the notice the city sent out regarding, I guess, shifting the burden of water drainage on their business property, and they have to then have it checked out by a consultant and bear the cost of that. Several businesses are concerned about the timeline that we've given them to come into compliance. I was wondering if we could look at, I think we amended the UDO back in October, and it only gives them 30 days, I think. Donna and I talked about this morning. I don't have what we approved in front of me, so I'm just going off the letter.
Okay.
I think other counselors have received calls as well.
Can I clarify something?
Yes.
It's actually goes into effect over next year. They have to do the reporting by January of 17. So this is the advance notice to let them know that during the year they don't have to hire somebody to do the inspections. They can do that with their current staff. They just have to inspect and provide documentation that they have inspected by January of 17.
I think that's the concern, is the way they're reading this is they have to absorb all the costs, hire a consultant to come in and inspect it, because the city's not going to, the concern is the city's not going to accept what they do in-house. They would have to have some professional come in and do that. I think, I don't know how the councilors feel, but I think I would like for us to put a hold on this and maybe have some interested party meetings, community meetings, so that businesses can come in and talk about this. One gentleman expressed concern that I think this document says you can call Mike Burgess.
Yeah.
And Mike has his plate is full, and it's been very difficult to get in touch with him.
Okay.
Nobody else will take the responsibility of talking to anybody on Mike's behalf or share information. It's got to be Mike.
Okay.
And since you can't reach him, it's a very frustrating issue. They've even been down to his office, and he's not in. And and I'm not trying to disparage Mike in any way. I'm just saying his plate is full, and the folks are getting this in the mail, and they can't talk to him.
Well,
so
let me look into that, Councilor Allen, and I know that that's not a local requirement, but a federal requirement, and we'll look at the timeline that they've put on us, and we will schedule some meetings, and we'll kind of lay out, and in fact, you know, if we've got, if we're not too, if our agenda is not too heavy at the next meeting, we'll even do it here. We'll take a look at that.
That'd be fine. That'd be, I mean, let's have a work session, just bring them in, invite them in at that point.
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing that. The other point I wanted to make is next time we have something like this on the agenda, I had to leave early that meeting, but another counselor told me that Mike was here that day, and I think Donna was here that day, and we didn't ask any questions, so they didn't make a presentation. Next time we have something like this, would you make a presentation?
Sure.
Could we have it in a work session so that we'll know what's going to happen when this is sent out? And we start getting calls, and it says, Council of Columbus, Georgia approved this text, and this is, now we're dumping it in your lap, and you've got to comply. If we don't know what's going on, we start getting calls, and it's very frustrating on both ends.
And we'll certainly do that. And I think in the past, what we've done with, we've kind of told you what the current rule and what the new would be and so forth. And so we'll make sure that we do that. And we'll certainly make sure that we do it. And let me just say that Mike Burgess takes his job very seriously.
I know he does.
And
he's a dedicated employee.
he works solo. I mean, he's it. And he's, I was just saying to engineering director back in the back how, I mean, he's diligent. You know, I've had him to have to inspect my personal property, and they don't waver at all, and he shouldn't. But I'm just saying to you, he's serious about his job, and he does a good job at it. He's so serious that Councilor Allen, the same notice they got in the mail, he sent it to me as city manager, so that I would know about our detention ponds. And so I sent it. I scanned it and asked him, what is this about? And then he told me what it was about. It's about your detention ponds and about this. And so he served me.
So the city has to come into compliance with ours as well.
And so I wondered why he was sending that to me in an official way, Well,
I kind of laughed at one of the gentlemen that called me, said they went down to his office and they wanted to meet with him, and the person there told him that he's up at so-and-so creek walking somewhere.
Yeah.
And they laughed because I said, well, that's his job. He's out inspecting all the time.
Yeah, that's what he does. So, but we will certainly do that.
Okay.
And we'll explain it and have meetings and go through that to make sure everybody's got it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
With that,
Councilor
I'm sorry.
Well, and Mr. City Manager, I just wanted to add to what Councilor Allen said. You and I talked about it a little bit, and I had a chance to talk to Michael and somewhat talked about a specific matter as it relates to several property owners. But I will tell you, since that time that I've talked to him, I also have received a number of calls from parcel owners, landowners, developers, business owners, and I think there's a lot of just confusion out there. There's a lot of talk that's somewhat, from lack of understanding, it's very misleading, and it circles around the point of being just another government regulatory measure. But I think with the opportunity to try to explain this and maybe get to an audience, I think that needs to be done as well. I think that the city needs to be proactive and go to the whether it's the homeowners association or the developers or the builders, or have some meetings to kind of educate.
Sure.
It would probably settle things down. I don't think that you could probably do it with a presentation. Presentation would probably be good at some point. I know it's not scheduled today, but I do know that there's a lot of concern here, and there's some issues that are out there as well, and I think that even government regulations applies to some of this. I'm not sure, but where I'm confused is that it might apply for some different than others, and it may be like Councilor Allen said, it may be a hefty cost coming in the future that was unexpected. So I think we do need to have a conversation with everybody out there. I think there was something like 600. I think 600
notices.
Letters went out, and you can imagine the people that that I've talked to since just said, "What is it? Where did it come from?"
Well,
so,
and I, again, I certainly understand that, and we'll meet with home builders, developers, and we'll schedule some meetings. And again, we've got to comply,
Right.
as I see it.
Right.
Not just them, it's city as well, and he served me notice as well. So.
well, and complying current, but I think there's also an aspect of how this goes into the future with new development.
Yeah.
Or existing development on an already developed site. There's a lot of variables here that I think are issues, and certainly we need to communicate to all the participants out there, because they are, right now I kind of sense they're a little upset, right, Councilor Allen? A little frustrated, a little upset? Okay. Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Councilman Burns, did you?
Yes, I got called as well, but Mike was able to address mine. He takes his job extremely serious and takes care. And what he did, he took the time to, the calls that I had, excuse me, he took the time to go to those areas and explain to them it was federal, not coming from us. But he also was meticulous enough to not only to go there and explain it to them, but he also sent an email of other things that they could do that would offset some of the costs that they would incur and whatever. But he took the time to do it. And he is extremely committed to his job, and he does want to address individuals himself, because he is the authority when it comes to this here, and he wants to make sure that the information that he relays is correct. But he he took the time for those individuals and actually explained the whys, various options, the cost-saving options that they could pursue and whatever. And so, but I agree with Gary that with something like this here coming, especially on the front of it, because I got the call, well, you approved it. So, Gary, I share your pain. So with something like that, if we could just be stopped so that we could be educated. And then thirdly, with something like this here, to maybe take the load off of Mike, if we can have a meeting, and schedule and have individuals send it out over CCG TV so that individuals who have concerns can come, and we can do a couple of presentations so he can outlay the options, because from the way he explained it to those individuals, he gave them some cost-saving measures that they could, and he also delayed the time, so it's not immediate. I think, Donna, I think you're correct. I think it's down a ways for them to be able to make whatever adaptations that they need to make.
We'll handle it.
Okay. I see no more questions.
Okay, so we'll have our community reinvestment manager, Laura McCool, to give an update on Claflin School restoration.
Good afternoon. I'm here today to provide a brief update on the Claflin School renovation project. I'm going to go back and give a little bit of a history of what's occurred. In January 2013, Council accepted Claflin School from the school board. There was a deed restriction on the property, which still does remain at this time, to state that the property must be used for educational purposes only. There's also a reversion clause that states that if the city does not want the property, it would revert back to the federal government. Council at the time gave staff 12 months to come up with a plan. And originally, it was to be used as a homeless resource center. But that idea did not receive very positive feedback from the community. So in August 2013, an RFP was advertised, but no proposals were submitted, so the RFP was extended for a longer period of time. So in May 2014, Council approved retaining the property for an additional 6 months to give time staff to come up with a plan. Then in November 2014 was when Friends of Historic Claflin submitted their proposal. And then in February 2015, Council approved leasing the building to the Friends of Historic Claflin. The original terms of the agreement would be that the Friends of Historic Claflin would have 18 months to complete phases 2 and 3, and then an additional 3.5 years to complete phases 4, 5, and 6. And the Friends of Historic Claflin were to stabilize and secure the building and maintain the landscaping. This is the timeline that was originally proposed to Council. Phase 1 would have occurred from June through November 2014, where the Friends of Historic Claflin were to develop an RFP, develop a sustainability plan, submit application to Historic Register, create the nonprofit, and establish the board. All of these items have been completed. December through January 2015, they were to complete the RFP, apply for the 501c3 status, hold off a kickoff campaign, and all of that was completed as well. Phase 2 that was presented to Council stated that between March and August 2015 would be when the Friends of Historic Claflin would be applying and identifying restoration funds and conducting fundraising. And then Phase 3, which was September 2015 through February 2016, is when the stabilization and demolition of the building would begin and fundraising would be continued. Phase 4 of the timeline was between March 2016 and March 2017, where the restoration of the building would begin and end in 2017. Phase 5 was April 2017 through April 2018, is when they would begin preparing the building for tenants. And then Phase 6, which was May 2018 through September 2018, is when they would be preparing for the grand opening. These are some pictures that were taken right after the city took Claflin back from the school board. And as you can see, at that time, the building wasn't in greatest shape. So to provide an update now, we did come to Council on September 8th, 2015. At that time, the Friends of Historic Claflin were not satisfied with the terms of the lease that was developed by the city. They did not like the requirement of it having to provide an annual proof of insurance, the requirement that they would be required to submit preliminary plans for the city to review prior to signing the lease, and also that the ownership of Claflin would remain with the city even after restoration was complete. On September 10th, the city met with the Friends of Historic Claflin to discuss the lease terms that they were not satisfied with. At that meeting, the city manager agreed to allow quarterly insurance payments versus annual payments so that it would be more affordable for the Friends of Historic Claflin to pay. All of the remaining terms of the lease would remain the same. And at that meeting, the Friends of Historic Claflin were told by the city that the city could not deed the property over to them after restoration was complete. Friends of Historic Claflin were still not satisfied that the city could not deed the property. On November 9th, they sent a letter to the city manager stating that they were still not satisfied with the lease terms. They want the lease to be revised to state that it will be transferred after renovations are complete and want the terms omitted from the lease concerning a long-term lease versus sale. They also said that they would proceed with purchasing the insurance and signing the lease if the city would agree to the terms that they were proposing. Some of the property restrictions is that Claflin is federal property and it has deed restrictions stating that it must be used for educational purposes only. There is also still a reversion clause in the deed that states that it will revert back to the federal government if the city no longer wants it. So the city cannot just deed federal property with restrictions over to the Friends of Historic Claflin. So even if these restrictions were not in place, the property still could not be deeded over to them without following the city charter. The city charter states that city council can only deed property over to another governmental entity for less than fair market value, not a nonprofit. It also says that city council can only quitclaim property to other entities if there's no appreciable monetary value. So in this case, Friends of Historic Claflin is a nonprofit, not a governmental entity, and they do not, and the property would not qualify for having no appreciable monetary value. These are some pictures that were just taken recently, and it's showing that the Claflin School is still deteriorating. Also, it is being used by the homeless population. That's water. It's in the basement of the school. It's flooded with water. So this is an update of where we are now. On December 3rd, Friends of Historic Claflin did sign the right of entry. What this document will allow them to do is have access to the building before the lease is signed in order for them to do some preliminary studies. They also did provide us with proof of their first quarterly insurance payment. The right of entry does expire on December 31st, 2015, so they have 1 month to come up with for being able to sign the lease. The lease has been formulated since August of 2015. Also, Claflin has got approval that they are approved to be a 501c3, but they just have not received their official letter from the IRS yet. The city still does not have the preliminary plans that it needs to review prior to signing the lease agreement. Also, the Friends of Historic Claflin has agreed that they will meet prior to December 31st so that they can get approval to sign the lease agreement by that date.
Was that 16?
No, it should be 15.
15. The right of entry just allows them to have access to the building.
No, you got it.
It's 15. Yeah, I'm sorry if it should be 15.
Yeah.
I apologize. And that's all we have. If you have any questions.
Well, and Madam Mayor, we had in council, I did meet with Reverend Richard Jesse and members of his executive committee on December 3rd. They did, as Ms. McCool indicated, they did have proof of insurance for 3 months, and they did sign the right of entry, which allows them to go into the building, and we required that they meet with the executive committee, resolve any remaining issues they have with the lease. Our lease is our lease, and we've had our lease reviewed by our internal in-house counsel, lawyers, and with our real estate lawyer that we used, outside lawyer. And the terms of the lease is what we can present to them, and they had some issues with a couple of things in the lease about subleasing and so forth, but our real estate attorney, outside lawyer, crafted language that we included in the lease, and we provided them with that lease, and they were to go back to the executive committee, review it. They know where things stand, and then we would require that they sign the lease by December 31st. And so that's where we are. We think we're moving along. I know that Reverend Jesse is here, and I would like to extend to him, if you would allow, an opportunity to come and make any comments he'd like to make.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank the city manager and his staff for working with us over these last year or so. It's been a year since we got our RFP in time. Let me say this to the mayor and council. We love the way you handle your business. There are some decisions that you have made over the last 2 years that have really helped us in this community, and the way you have responded to the community. And one in particular, we came to you a couple of years ago about some of the things going on at our Muscogee County Jail, and came back 3 months. You referred us to Judge Gil McBride, and we've been working with him, and we just got a report that for the first time in recent memory, we have less than 1,000 people in the Muscogee County Jail, and I thank you for directing us and how we could be working with our leaders and our judges to make some difference as far as our prison system is concerned. As far as Claflin is concerned, when we came in here in September, we were not aware at that time that the deed that we were offered in August was not in line with what you had offered us in February. More specifically, that after we had spent this $10 million in the school, and after we had gotten the programs in that we had outlined that we were working on now, that the property could not be conveyed to us. And we met with the city manager and his staff, and they have said that they cannot do that. And we, last week, because we are anxious to get started, we have some wonderful plans, employment, some things that will be going on, but we cannot we cannot sign a lease that we can't live with. And basically, some of the language in there that we will be renters forever is not the type of, I think, the spirit of what you had offered us. So we wanted to take the rest of this month to try to pursue ways that once we have invested this money in the school, once we have gotten our programs in there, that we will be in control of Claflin School. And so we are talking with the General Services Administration now, who deals with disposal of federal properties, and they agree that the deed, we send them a copy of the deed, that there might be a better way that we can handle this. So by December 31st, we hope that we'll have some recommendations and be ready to go to work. We need to secure the building, and now that we've signed the rights of entry, we can go over, we can secure the building, and we can start doing some of the testing that needs to be done on the facility. So we really are excited about being at this point. But the question now is, once everything is done, and I have no doubt that God is going to help us to preserve Claflin School, that we will be in control of how it is run, and that's the issue.
Well, and thank you, Reverend Jesse, and I want to be clear too that the lease agreement, agenda report, and all that we brought you did not indicate conveyance of this property to Friends of Historic Claflin. It talked about a lease that would lease to them for $1 a year for 10 years, and then for 5 years renewal, and then from there. A letter that was sent by our purchasing manager had a sentence in it that talked about, that mentioned conveyance, and which was inadvertently in that sentence, but it was not what was brought before this council and what you voted on to allow us to enter into a lease agreement with Friends of Historic Claflin. I just wanted to make that clear. And so with the right of entry, and we'll move towards December 31st, and if they decide to sign a lease by then we will move forward in accordance with the timeline. And I've told Reverend Jesse and the Friends of Historic Claflin that we will adhere to that timeline, and the only relief from that timeline that Friends of Historic Claflin will be able to get would require that they come back before this council to get an amendment to the timeline. And so I've said to him, if work is progressing in a very productive way, that we can see that things are really going well, and I'd be the first on my agenda to ask council to extend that timeline. And so we want to see how things go, and we'll be prepared to make a recommendation. But if we don't get a lease signed by December 31st, then I will be coming back to you the first of the year with some recommendations as to where we go from here without a lease. And I think we've worked long enough to get to the point of signing the lease, and December 31st, as far as I'm concerned, is a date that will trigger me to come back to you with additional recommendations. So that's where we are, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the city manager? None at this time. Does not appear to be.
All right, thank you. Next, we've got a transportation project update. Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge is going to provide that update. And this update will include the T-Splosh Riverwalk project, a brief update on where we are with that.
Good afternoon. This update we've been trying to give to you since October 27th, so some of the pictures that have been included are a couple months old, but hopefully you still get the same idea of where we are on a lot of our transportation projects. We'll start with Forest Road. It's a widening project. This is phase one. We don't have a commitment date for that to be completed yet. We don't like to be held to dates if we're not sure when those dates will be completed. But this is just some of what's going on right now with utility relocation in that particular area. And then on the Forest Road bridges, we expect those to be done in the second quarter of 2016. And you can see if you drive in that area, there's detours and there's a lot of work being done on the bridges. And once those are completed, then we'll be moving forward with that project. And they should be flipping the traffic. We're just waiting on AT&T on the Bull Creek Bridge, and traffic will be flipped. On Victory Drive, this is an intersection improvement at the Walmart intersection, and that should be completed by January of 2016. So we're getting really close to completion of this intersection improvement. At Double Churches and Veterans Park, this is a widening project, intersection improvement. Drive in that area, there's a lot of work being done to add additional lanes to the ramp onto J.R. Allen, as well as turn lanes onto Double Churches Road. And so there's a lot of work that's being done. Some of these, like I said, are a couple months old, so they're further along than what's shown in these pictures. This has been completed on one side, and they're finishing up on the other side to allow for 2 turn lanes onto that access ramp. Next set of projects on 14th Street Bridge. This is scheduled to be completed March of 2016, and that's one of the projects that we had lengthy discussions about, the intersection to add into Front Avenue, and that will be ready for that expansion onto Front when we're ready to move forward with that project. Moon Road, a long-awaited project. This is substantially complete. We have November of 2015, which was last month. There are a few items that are remaining on the Moon Road project. We have to finish the sidewalks and then do the final striping. And again, this is a couple months old, but if you've traveled on Moon Road lately, it's moving freely, and I think everyone should be happy with how it turned out once we got the striping in. I know there were a lot of questions about where the turn lanes were going to be, and so I think those have been responded to. On the next set of projects, we did have 2 more projects, Forest Road and River Road. Those are still under design, and so we'll be moving forward with those. On Front Avenue, that one is under design. The bridge replacements are under design currently, and that is Decatur, Boxwood, Waterford, and Edgewood Road. Fort Benning Road and Brennan Road, this is a roundabout. At this time, we're under right-of-way acquisition. as well as on the Fort Benning Road streetscapes and the Winton Road streetscapes. We are currently under right-of-way acquisition of finishing those up. A few of the drainage projects that are in process. Oakland Park, this is Phase 2A, and if you'll remember, we had a large Oakland Park drainage project that we split up into phases, and we're funding those as we can afford to proceed forward. This Phase 2A is currently in the bid process. Joy Road and Casita Road, the drainage improvements there are currently under construction. And then Bull Creek Golf Course is under concept, and we're working on the design for that. Some of the GDOT projects, the Whittlesey Road, they're looking at fourth quarter of 2016 for completion. And if you drive in that area, there's a lot of movement of traffic, so they're finishing one side, they're moving to the other, and you can see progress being made, but that will be fourth quarter of 2016. Talbotton Road is a widening project as well with GDOT, and that is under right-of-way acquisition at this time. Technology Parkway, I believe I have some pictures of those. This is substantially complete. They're looking at first quarter of 2016. There's still a couple issues with some slopes that they're trying to address in two particular areas, but that for the most part is substantially complete. And then the Veterans Parkway North from Moon Road to Hancock. And this project is moving along as well. They're looking at a 2017 completion date for that particular project. On the T-SPLOST projects, first off, the Bibb Mill and the City Mill project. That was a $10 million project to complete the Riverwalk in those particular areas. We did bid that project out, and the project bids came in significantly higher than the available funding. We've attempted to value engineer that project down in order to meet our funding requirements, and at this time our recommendation is to rebid based on the substantial redesign that we've had to do on those projects, because we're trying to get it within the budget that's been approved by T-SPLOST. The original deadline from the TIA folks at GDOT was 2015, that those had to be under contract by the end of December. So we were trying to work through that schedule with GDOT, but they have agreed to allow us to rebid, which we feel is the best option to make sure we get the best pricing and to proceed forward with that project. So we are moving forward as quickly as possible to get those documents and that redesign and that rebid done. I do have, I think, some pictures. This is the Follow Me Trail. I'll show you the pictures that we have on the Riverwalk. For the most part, the design will remain the same on the south portion at the Bibb Mill. So what you see and what the concepts that we've presented to council will be substantially the same thing. We're doing some things, and I believe Donna can address if you have specific questions from an engineering standpoint on the bridge itself, on how we're going to redesign to try to make some reductions but not change the design that's there now and the look that we're going to have with the Riverwalk.
Oh, yes. Councilor Allen.
Yeah, that's the slide I wanted to go.
There you go.
Is that the Riverwalk?
Yes, that will be the Riverwalk, and there'll be bridges connecting from the Bibb Mill down to the existing Riverwalk. Because there's a huge difference in the elevation there, so it has to take kind of a curved approach to get from the elevation down to the existing Riverwalk.
What's the cost of that project?
What we have now was a $10 million project originally. We have about $8.5 million left, so we're looking at the Bibb Mill portion around $7 million, and the City Mill portion about $1.5 million.
How is this funded?
This is one of the T-SPLOST projects.
It just seems like we could build a trail in a different way. It should be re-engineered, in my opinion, to build a trail in a different way to lower the cost. $7 million can be spent in all of our districts to improve the roads and streets in our districts better than right here. I mean, you're going to have.
I completely understand, but this is a particularized project that the pictures went out to the public before they voted.
And this
So-
is a
And this money
T-Splosh.
can't be moved around.
Right, they
You
cannot
know,
be moved
it
around.
was project-specific, just like the spider web. You allocated a certain dollar amount for this project, there's a certain dollar amount, and for all those other tier projects. So it can't be moved around and shared with districts. It's got to go to this project.
This is funding from the T-Splosh. There were specific projects
Yeah.
that were approved by the voters, and this project had a project budget of $10 million. And the way that it is being administered is that all of them stand on their own by project, and you can't, do something for $5 million here so you can do $5 million somewhere else. It's definitely project specific.
So if we decide to re-engineer this and do a different trail, we lose the $7 million.
At this point, it's not being reallocated to Columbus. It would be reallocated within the district, and the district, which is the River Valley District, would be reallocated within that district. And at this point, that will not take place until we complete all the projects that are in all of the districts.
Well, this counselor feels like I would rather than spend $7 million on, what is that, quarter of a mile? Half a mile?
Probably less than a quarter of a mile.
Less than a quarter of a mile, $7 million.
It's suspended. It's a suspended
I
bridge.
know, we don't need a suspended bridge. You could engineer a different way. I'd rather give up the money than spend $7 million on it.
You want to give it up to Talbot County and Marion County and Twiggs County?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, I would.
Okay, all right.
I cannot see
Well, our
Columbus, Georgia
citizens
spending
voted on
$7 million. We can go back and file another plan with the T-Splosh and reallocate the monies to be spent in the districts, the city as a whole.
Well,
It won't be
so-
spent on the districts of the city. The whole will be sent on 16 counties.
Well, we can reapply get it rebudgeted to do something else in the future, but spending $7 million on less than a quarter of a mile is absolutely ridiculous.
It's a mile. It's a mile.
Spending $7 million on a mile is absolutely
Let me ask you this. I understand the consternation. Was this originally a project that was on the T-Splosh?
Yes.
With this general design?
Yes.
And then the citizens, so if we had complaints about it, if we wanted to work against it, if we want to campaign against it and wear T-shirts that said no to T-Splosh, we could have. But the citizens then passed it.
That's correct, and it was passed based on the budget and the concepts that were presented to the public.
Can you show me the advertising campaign that showed this particular picture to the citizens?
It's on the website.
Can you show me the advertising campaign that showed this to the citizens?
I can show you all the documentations that were done during the T-Splosh.
Okay, was this slide,
I believe this
Presented to
is
the
one of the
citizens.
slides that was part of the concept
and
in
it was
in the
identified
presentation.
as $8 million on less than a mile?
It was $10 million
So it
on
was
the
identified
total.
as $10 million on a mile.
On Bibb Mill and City Mill, because it was connecting both of those sections of the Riverwalk. So the total is
Pam, there's
10
got to
million.
be a better way to connect those two than spending $7 million.
Well, I think the thing is, of course, we'll be guided by you, but we did a list of projects with descriptions that went to this River Valley Committee, whatever you call it.
Regional Commission.
Regional Commission, and they had to present those projects, just like the $22 million for public transit. I mean, that, you can't spend that money on anything else.
I got you.
And so we presented projects on the spider web and all of our projects with that commission, and they voted to accept these projects. And of course, from there, it went to the ballot. And we went around showing what the projects were going to be to educate the voters, with the dollar values for each of those projects to educate the voters. And that's what they voted on, and so we're trying to deliver.
I got it.
We're trying to deliver.
I understand it was presented, but
on
this is the first time this counselor has seen that depiction and been told that that's going to cost, not 10, now it's going to cost 7.
Yeah. Well, we do have presentations where Rick presented them, the PowerPoints, before they went to the Regional Commission, which Skip served on and I served on. And then this council approved that list, and it went to the Regional Valley River Commission as Columbus's submission for their consideration. They voted on it. Then when they voted on it, it came back, we got another update. It went on the ballot. You know, we kept receiving updates along the way.
You're saying the same thing he just said, so I understand. I understand.
The truth.
I'm with you. I understand. You don't have to say it more than once.
Yeah,
I got
but
it.
we can pull, why don't we pull...
And I think we've presented at council a number of times, too.
Why don't we pull those PowerPoints, Rick, just pull the PowerPoints, and also when the gentleman who doesn't work for them anymore, but was their deputy, I can't think of his name, but came down here and gave us the white notebooks, Long, what was Todd Long?
No, Todd Long. Yeah.
Todd Long came down here and made a presentation before the vote, went through all that. I think Colin Martin was involved. He was pro T-Splost. He came and made a presentation about the projects. So pull all those various projects and PowerPoint presentations, just get them to the councilors so that they can see them and maybe refresh their recollections. So, okay, Councilor Davis.
There's a lot of things being said here from everybody that's accurate, but you got to look at the core facts of this matter. We approved $10 million to do a project. We have guidelines. It's legally recorded on the guidelines. The pictures and the concepts and the designs are not in concrete, etched in concrete. They can't be, because you just don't know what's going to happen. That's just a concept, so we don't have to stick to that picture. Now, what the councilor is saying is correct. If you don't have the money and it comes over budget, then you're going to have to find another way to do it. And that's the way I perceive it now, but what I would like to add to this equation is, I know we got capable people, okay, and there are people that have already been hired with this money, so that even cuts down additional money that you have for construction and building this connection on the Riverwalk. But you know, there may be a possibility that we could look at it from a different angle with some people that do this all the time at no cost. Some consultants that are already working in the area that may be able to work out a way to figure maybe what can be done with this, and it may very well be that you use this same design, but you may have to make some elevation adjustments. You know, we've got a partner, I would call him a partner now, that owns that piece of property there that would probably be willing to give you land that might help in getting this project into budget. And I think that's the way I perceive it, and you know, I want that to be clear, that we're not bound to this design here. I think we're bound to connecting that section of the Riverwalk through the guidelines, legal guidelines that we've turned into the DOT.
Well,
I do know, too, and we should say, I know some councilors know and other councilors just may not be aware, that there is a group that's been pushing for the redesign of this thing. And they wanted us to dynamite the dam and run it along the edge of the river and not suspend it and save some money, and then therefore move some of the money down to...
Dynamite the dam.
What's that?
You just said dynamite the dam.
Dynamite the dam, yes, sir.
I don't think you can dynamite a dam.
Well, that's what the plan was. And so what we did was we worked with we went to see if that was feasible. I mean, this has been going around because they wanted us to take the money that we could save from lowering it in elevation and transfer those monies down to City Mill, where they've got a big project going, and, you know, private partner, public partnership, which we would all love to do. However, we went to Georgia Power, who owns the dam or the dam house. What is it? Anyway, whatever it is, the structure that's there, and they will not agree to allow anybody to dynamite anywhere near there. I think there's a power source as well. And also that wall that makes up the river mill was built 100 and something years ago and is not reinforced with steel. So if you go dynamiting at the foot of that mountain, nobody can guarantee that that will not come crashing down. They cannot reinforce that. So we've sort of been through all this of, you know, could we do this, could we lower it, and so forth. And those are the issues you're going to be running up against. So we had a benevolent.
Could you provide that structural report from the engineers about dynamiting the dam and the approval from Georgia Power?
Yeah.
Or
Well, Georgia Power
that they said that they would not do that?
Yeah, we can provide that. I mean, they said they
Because
were not interested
you don't,
in
to
that.
remove, well,
Yeah. So, and so with those impediments, this is what we're looking at. And what I think is being proposed is that indeed it be rebid to come back with a more scaled back, different design that is not as costly. And then we can go from there. Yeah. And again, it's the elevation and putting those things in the water and so forth, but we can.
Well, and it's to complete that, because right now there's missing pieces. So it was, part of this project was the completion of the Riverwalk, so you can go all the way from Lake Oliver to Fort Benning. So there are sections that are missing, and this was to finish that.
Yeah.
This was a private venture, you were responsible for it. You can't tell me you would spend $7 million on 1 mile just so you can say you can go all the way from North Columbus to Fort Benning on your bike if you want to.
Well,
It's just not feasible.
and we didn't decide this, the voters did. So
The voters did not know you were going to spend $7 million
Yes, they
on
did.
1 mile. They did not.
We-
I'm positive. I didn't know it.
Well, I mean, and memories fade, but we've got the video, we've got the PowerPoints. It was discussed. Yeah. So, okay, Counselor Thomas.
I would remind you that the vote was one vote on all 16 projects. I didn't get to vote on this one separately from the spider web. So if I wanted the spider web project, I had to vote yes.
Right.
And that included this $10 million project, which I may or may not have been in favor of. I'm with Councilor Allen. $7 million on this is it's obscene, and so we lose the money. Just because it's there doesn't mean we have to spend it. And we will be getting some of it back if it goes back into the pot of all 16 counties. And, you know, I agree with Councilor Allen. $7 million on that. Any million with an S on it on this kind of stuff sort of scares me. But I will remind you that it was not an individual vote on projects. It was all or nothing.
Right, and this is a T-SPLOST project, and there are requirements by the law, and I'm sure the city attorney can speak to this, that if we committed to do these projects, we're required to use these funds for this.
I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying don't complete the Riverwalk. I'm saying don't complete it for $7 million. Surely we can complete it for less than $7 million. That's my only point.
Let's rebid it and come back on that, and maybe we can save all kinds of money. Who knows? And two things to consider. I hate millions too. You know, as you recall, when the T-SPLOST was being debated, it was pointed out by Dr. Benjamin Blair that we, as Muskogee County, are already losing $80 million over 10 years. So we're already subsidizing the other counties. To subsidize them another $7 million more, I just don't know if the voters surely intended on that. So, and we do this often with SPLOST votes when we have several projects that include, you know, this amenity and that park and this trail and this whatever. And it always is a hodgepodge of things the bicyclists may like and the drivers may like and the people who ride the bus may like, and that's how you build a constituency, purportedly. So I think that's with the education SPLOST we just had at the Muskogee County School District. You saw the same type of pulling together different projects and different interests. Councilor Allen.
Well, it seems to me if we were to go back to the committee or whoever it is that you would approve the list, and we say we revisited this, we re-engineered it, and we've decided we can get it done for whatever the cost is. We're going to turn back over to you whatever X million dollars it is. I think that would give us some credibility with them in future projects going forward. But if they hear that we've spent $7 million on 1 mile, what are they going to think in the future?
They're expecting us to see.
No, I don't think. I really don't think that they.
They've been pushing us to do it by the end of the by the end of
We had to get
2015.
special permission to even bring this back to you to rebid.
Yeah.
So they were basically,
Well,
I don't want to say forcing
I
us,
question their
but
sanity if they're wanting us to spend $7 million
for urging us.
on 1 mile.
Yeah, well, let's bring it back, let's rebid it, and let's bring back that information. And it's a great discussion to have. I think it most probably should have been had before the vote, so. All right, thank you.
You're not done yet, I'm sure.
Yeah, let me
You
just
should have put
finish
that
the
at the
projects.
end.
Yeah. The other T-SPLOST projects, just to update you on the Follow Me Trail, I do have a few pictures of that. This is under process and will be completed by April of 2016. We talked about the Riverwalk, also the Metra bus system. Well, let me go Buena Vista Road. This is the concept drawings. That completion is to be determined. We're working on that now. The Metra bus is moving
Councilor
forward.
Huff.
Yeah, well, I have my friend in the corner over there, Director Jones. This is just for the listening public. I've had discussion with Director Jones because there's been some other discussion on how to complete the multi-purpose trail. And this presentation was made to council, and we were told, we would save money, blah, blah, blah. And everybody was good with it. And I told them, I just want to make sure that since we have the money, it was in the original plan, we just didn't know how we were going to do it. But that the multi-purpose trail will be on one side of the street or the other.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Metra bus, this was the InterCity bus expansion. That project is ongoing. We've made several presentations to council on the specifics of that and changing the routes and moving forward with that. And then the last project is the U.S. Custer Road improvements. That one is being managed by GDOT, and that's under design. At this point in time, I think they've had a pre-construction conference and are estimating about 24 months completion on that project. What we want to also talk to you today is about future projects that's under consideration, things in-house, things that council has provided to us. We've had citizens request some information. So this is a list that we've compiled of all those projects that are being considered, and we'll be bringing back to you a plan on funding these projects. But there's many. The total of these is over $30 million. And based on our current funding sources that we have available for transportation projects, these projects alone would take us through 2022 to fund. And that's these roundabouts at Beaver Run, Brown Avenue and Casita, 13th Avenue and 13th Street, 17th Street and Linwood Boulevard, and Casita Road and 23rd Avenue. There's some signals that have been justified at Salmon Road, Victory Drive and 30th Avenue, Ada Avenue, and then the 14th Street Uptown signal replacement.
Councilor Davis.
I want to make sure I don't speak before something is being said here. I wanted to go back to those intersections. I didn't see Fortson and Williams Road on that list, and that's something we've talked about a while. I've asked that the city look into Fortson and Williams Road. I don't know if you've been out there lately, but we've got a problem. And to the point of traffic is getting backed up into 185 now at that intersection, because it's just all the way backed up at quitting time. There's another problem that I'd like to bring to your attention, Mr. City Manager, about it's come to my attention that in the mornings now that Norfolk Southern is running trains in that area early in the morning around school time, and when that train comes through there, it just causes one heck of a logjam. So is there any way we can have a conversation with them to maybe work around the times when school lets in?
Well, I doubt it. If I could, I would have, I've been living out Buena Vista Road for about 30 years. I would have talked to them a long time ago, but, I don't think that's possible.
Well, it's my understanding that there was, for the longest time, they had not been running a route at 8:30 in the morning or early in the morning. And they just started running these routes recently. And it's causing problems. I don't know what we're going to do there, but you've got construction, you've got a major highway, you've got a backed up intersection, you've got traffic coming from the quarries. That's part of what the city does is to figure these things out.
Well, and I can say, the railroad, we've had communication with them over the years, and I can only speak to where, I experience it on a day-to-day basis, where, they're not supposed to tie up the intersection more than 15 minutes, and they do for 20 or 30 minutes. An hour. And I mean, I can be coming to work, I can go to church. It's always going to be there at the spider web. And we've communicated with them, but they don't hear you. And so we'll be happy to try again, but I just don't know that we're going to get anywhere.
Well, that'd be a start if there's a way that the city could communicate with them, and that's what I hear you saying, that we will make that effort. The city will make that effort. You got three, like I said, you got 3 schools there now, and it's quite painful in the mornings, and it just doesn't make anybody look good at this point. But hopefully, there's something that can be done.
Well, again, and when I do, I'll talk about Buena Vista Road as well, but I just don't know that we'll get any response from them.
Okay.
But we'll try.
Thank you for looking into it.
Okay, thank you. We have Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to put on your radar that Blackman Road is very in need of some widening. The middle school there and the new Walmart that's being built and the other enhancements to the area is causing a logjam right there in front of the school. And the traffic's back from Blackman Road all the way up to the Parkway. Donna has been keeping me updated on the study that they have going on for the road, but we're going to need some funding. I mean, if we just add one more lane and have a center turn lane, is really, I think what we were talking about, something like that anyway. I'm not an engineer, and I don't pretend to be one, but I think if something like that would be appropriate and accommodate those that have to go to work and have to get through the school traffic to do so.
Okay, we'll take a look.
And that study is currently ongoing, and we'll have a recommendation from that.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilor Davis, the Fortson Road, Williams Road is on our list of roundabouts. It's just not in this presentation, but it is one of the ones that's in part of the $30 million number.
All right. Let's see. We have Councilor Thomas.
Ms. Hodge, on this one, the 14th Street Uptown signal replacement, would you expand on that a little bit?
This is just to bring 14th Street to be consistent with the other signals in the Uptown area. So this is not a safety issue or that. It's just to be more consistent and to provide that upgrade for the signals in that on 14th Street as well.
That brings to mind something, a conversation I was having the other day with a constituent about whether or not it would be cost-effective or whatever, or whether or not we already do some kind of survey of traffic signals because of changes in traffic patterns. For example, 14th Street. When 14th Street was the major artery going into Phoenix City across the 14th Street Bridge, there was a lot of traffic on 14th Street going back and forth. There is no longer a lot of traffic on 14th Street, at particularly 5th Avenue, 3rd Avenue, 1st Avenue, and even Broadway. 2nd Avenue and Veterans Parkway, yeah, but that's because of 2nd Avenue and Veterans Parkway, not because of 14th Street. And so the question that was asked to me is, do we ever do any kind of a survey so that we can turn those lights off? I don't know if it would be cost effective or if it would be very costly, but I drove, for example, down 5th Avenue the other day, and from Tobbleton Road there at the Columbus Regional all the way down to Victory Drive, there's a traffic light at almost every intersection. And there probably doesn't need to be that many traffic lights on 5th Avenue anymore. 6th Avenue is the same way. So at any rate, would you, either Donna or Pam or Doc, speak to that so that I can know what to tell these folks?
We do routinely look at the traffic signals. We have a couple of programs. One is the congestion management program that we do annually, where we have staff that actually goes out and rides a corridor with a stopwatch and look at how long it takes to get from point A to point B and where your delays are. So we do that. We typically look at them as part of a project, which is where this partially came from with what we're doing on the 14th Street Plaza, what Path has discussed with that connector from the Fall Line Trace to the Riverwalk. That's part of that corridor. Matter of fact, I'm not even sure that we've taken up the traffic counts. We have been actively doing traffic counts on this corridor, and we would look at stuff like the signals. Are they still warranted? Do they need to be upgraded? Do they need to be removed? So we do routinely do that.
And if our citizens have suggestions of places for you to look, what is the easiest way for them to get it to you?
They need to contact the City Service Center. We frequently get reports or calls through the City Service Center where citizens have concerns about signals, whether they want a signal, whether they don't want a signal, delays, timing. We have to look at development in an area. We had to make some adjustments on Veterans with the opening of Aldi's. That demand changed, so we've had to make some adjustments on the signals there. So we're constantly, as time allows us to monitor our signal systems and try to keep them as efficient.
And it seems that this particular person was more concerned about the lack of congestion rather than congestion. It used to be that you needed a traffic light at 3rd Avenue and 14th Street. You probably don't need one there anymore. And so what happens is when people come up to that light and are forced to stop, they run the light. And it's a safety issue as well as a timing issue. So thank you.
Donna, along those lines, there are communities, and I can get you a list of them, but they have rules that you cannot put up another stoplight until you take one down. So they have capped their number of stoplights because stoplights are inefficient and they're costly and so on and so forth. So I just throw that out there to let you know that that is something a lot of communities are doing. Councilor Huff.
Director Newman, I need your help. Coming from Valley Healthcare, there's a natural, sidewalk. There's a natural walking trail on Evergreen. But you come around the sidewalk leaving Valley Healthcare, the sidewalk ends. They just left a clump of cement just right there in the middle of the ground. But there's a natural walkway that if you would check into it. I don't think we have to move any utility poles or anything to put a sidewalk connected from that point around Evergreen there.
Okay.
There's I'm trying to say, legally blind person that lives there on Evergreen. And they tried to make it better for him, but they put the straw-type material down, which just made it worse when it rains because he's slipping and sliding and trying to get around. And he walks that sidewalk, but you have it's eroding. It's kind of messy when it's raining and things of that nature. So if you look into that, and then I'll bring you, excuse me, a design that one of the neighbors did right there on Foy that was really well done, but I told them I would give it to you and let you take a look at it, coming from the ditch area at the end of Foy.
Okay.
Yeah, coming back toward Evergreen.
Okay. You
Okay.
can get it to me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So just to finish up some of the future projects, we're looking at the Whitesville Double Churches Road, the Infantry Road, and that's to connect there at the Infantry Museum, and then bridges that meet safety requirements or don't meet safety requirements. That's at Linwood Boulevard and 6th Avenue, Reese Road, Clarendon Avenue, and Fort Benning Road. Other future projects, we're looking at Cooper Creek ADA, sidewalk ADA. Some of the example that Councilor Huff used is connecting sidewalks throughout the community, ADA requirements at parks, and then guardrails. Plus just our normal resurfacing, which we're trying to do at least $2 million a year on resurfacing. These projects have been estimated at around $30 million. Then we also have other projects that have been brought forward or discussed with council, and that's the past partnership for the trail extensions, the Gale Studios minimum grid, the 2nd Avenue corridor beautification, and then the ITS on J.R. Allen. So what we've been working on is to establish criteria for these projects and to bring forward our criteria. We're basing it on congestion relief, safety and vehicle accidents, service to major activity centers, impact on the neighborhoods, and then quality of life. And we're trying to put those in categories and to score those and give you our priority list and the funding plan to go forward with that. But as I said, this is $30 million that would take us through 2022, and that does not include any of those projects listed on the other category. So as we move forward into the budget process, we'll be bringing back some preliminary plans and information related to these projects, and if there are other areas of the community that you want us to address and add to the plan, we'll be happy to do that. And at this time, I'll be happy to answer any additional questions.
Let's see, we have Councilor Huff.
Has there been any discussion on how we will connect what PATH is doing with what Gale wants to do? Minimum grid versus...
We've had discussions really with both groups. A lot of the folks on the PATH are also involved in the Gale Studios and the minimum grid, so we're trying to kind of combine those and put those together to provide that to council. So there has been discussion.
Because there are, in part of my district, there's an area where both of those will work well. It's not one over the other one, but the multi-use trail on one side, and then they want to connect coming from the other direction.
Right.
Okay.
And so the groups are trying to coordinate so that we're not on either side of the road doing something completely different.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Looks like that's it.
Thank you. I've got two more, what I hope to be brief updates. I want you to know the status of waste collection equipment, because we do have old equipment, and we need to talk to you about where we are in terms of equipment.
Good afternoon. I'm going to speak very briefly today, I hope, and I'm going to talk predominantly about the garbage trucks, the compactors, the rear loaders, not the grab-alls and some of the other equipment we use, because our garbage trucks are critical and need that attention. Earlier this year, last fiscal year, I told you that we had 70 trucks. Of those, 56 were over age and or over mileage, and 44 have been evaluated by our fleet manager as being in critical condition. Well, 6 or 7 months have passed. We still have 70 trucks. 56 are still overall over age and over mileage, although several more will click over in January. Of those, however, we now have 51 that are critical, and we've got 4 that we are now going to have to take out of service out of those 51. In addition to that, over the years, we've usually kept some of the old bad ones as spares so that when we had something down for an extended period of time, we would have something to substitute, and we no longer have any spares. So if something goes down, it's down. Recently, we've been averaging about 10 trucks down every day. The week before Thanksgiving, we went into almost panic mode because we had 17 trucks down. We were able to get more back up on the road, but it was really nip and tuck. And if you think about 70 trucks and 17 of them are down, we're talking a pretty substantial percentage. We've been basically cannibalizing parts out of other trucks. We can't get trucks for some of them. A number of our trucks are from a company that closed down 12 years ago. And we simply don't have any ability to get them except to fabricate them, which takes an extended period of time. And some of them we can't fabricate either. So we're starting to run into more and more problems just keeping the ones we have operational. And repairs, of course, are getting increasingly expensive. Over the last 4 years, we've averaged $1.1 million per year maintaining these 70 trucks. It doesn't include the grab balls and the other equipment we have in the fleet. In addition to that, I had talked during the budget process about the fact that we haven't grown our fleet or our workforce in probably 30 years. I couldn't find the last time that we added trucks or drivers. And we're about 17 trucks short simply from the growth in the city and the addition of the recycling program and its growth. We did gain about 3 trucks worth of relief from going to 1 day a week. And we also gained about 3 trucks by the change in glass recycling, which brings us down to